Good morning, Year 8. I hope you had a lovely week and you're really getting into the swing of things with your new timetable. So this is your second maths work for this week. So hopefully you spent the first kind of 20-25 minutes doing the 20 questions and now you are ready to mark them, okay? So follow us along, make sure you tick those you got correct and correct any you didn't quite get. And then at the end you need to make sure you've written a mark out of 20 on it and you upload it to ShowMyHomework, okay? So first one. We've already got the same denominator, so we're just going to add these together, okay? So 1 plus 1 is 2, and then they are quarters, okay? So we leave the bottom the same, okay? So we should have 2 quarters as our answer, but that's not in its lowest form because we can make that even lower, can't we? We can divide the top by 2 to get 1, and we can divide the bottom by 2 to get 2. So actually the answer is 1/2, so make sure you've got that correct. Next one then, so it says 3/10 minus 1/10, so if we've got the denominator the same, we're just going to subtract the numerators. So 3 take away 1 is 2, so our answer is 2/10. But again, we're going to simplify that because we can divide the top by 2 to get 1, and we can divide the bottom by 2 to get 5, okay? So our answer there is 1/5. Up next then, so we're dividing by 100. So 100 has 2 zeros, so that's how many zeros we're going to take off here. So therefore, 32,300 divided by 100, sorry about that, 1 second, is 323, okay? So 323. Up next, it says 9,300 divided by 100. So again, I've got 2 zeros and 100. Let's get rid of that. Got 2 zeros and 100, so we're going to get rid of 2 zeros off here. So we'll get rid of that one and we'll get rid of that one. So the answer is 93. Okay, so up next, it says 110 millimetres equals how many centimetres? So we've said before there are 10 millimetres in 1 centimetre, okay? So that means if we want to figure out how many centimetres there are in 110 millimetres, we do 110 divided by 10 equals 11, okay? So the answer is 11 centimetres. 110 millimetres is exactly the same as 11 centimetres. Okay, so up next, it says complete 650 centimetres is how many metres? So there are 100 centimetres in a metre. So therefore, if I want to know how many metres there are in 650 centimetres, I'm going to take my 650 and again I'm going to divide by 100 because that's what I want to know, okay? So therefore, I would take my decimal place, it's at the end at the moment. If I divide by 10, I'd get 65, and if I divide by 100, I get 6.5. So 6.5 metres is our final answer there, okay? Next then, so it says write in figures 2 units, 7/10, and 2 hundredths, okay? So we'll start with our 2 units, then we'll put a decimal point because we know that comes after units. Now after units does come tenths, which is good, okay? So we've got our 7/10, and after tenths does come 100ths, so we can have our 2. So our answer there is 2.72. Okay, so the next one's a bit longer. So it says, write in figures 7 tens, 8 tenths, and 6 thousandths. Okay, so we'll start with our 7 tens. But what comes after tens? Well, after tens comes units. Now, it doesn't say we have any, but we've still got to write our 0 and then our decimal point because that comes after units. Now, after units comes tenths. Well, we've got 8 of those. After tenths comes hundredths. We don't have any of those, but we've still got to write a 0. And then is our 6 thousandths, okay? So our answer should be 70.806. Up next then, so it says something plus 9 is 14. Now I'm sure lots of you just know that the answer to that is 5, but the way we do that is we take our answer, which is 14, and then we do the opposite of what this says, okay? So instead of plus 9, we do the opposite of add, which is subtract. So we subtract 9, which equals 5, and that is the answer, and we can test whether it's the answer by putting it in the question mark. So if I do 5 plus 9, I do indeed get 14, so I know that that's correct. Okay, same for this one then. So I'm going to take the answer, I'm going to put 3 here, and then this says divide by 7, but I'm going to do the opposite. So I'm going to times by 7 because that's the opposite. So 3 times 7 equals 21, okay? So now I can test it, pop my 21 in the question mark, then if I divide by 7, how many 7s fit into 21? Well, it's 3, so I know that that's correct, okay? Up next then, so we've got 15,982, and I want to take away 6,070. So 0 from 2 is 2, 7 from 8 is 1, 0 from 9 is 9, 6 from 5, oh, can't do that, but I can get rid of this one and put it there, so I've got 15, so 6 from 15 is 9, okay, so there we go, we've got our final answer there of 9,912. Okay, so another subtraction here, so I'll write them out again, so 19,014, take away 10,309. Okay, so 9 from 4, well I can't do that, so I'm going to have to borrow one from the tens column. So now it's 9 from 14, which equals 5. 0 from 0 is 0. 3 from 0, oh, I can't do that, so I'm going to have to make that an 8, and that becomes a 10. 3 from 10 is 7. 0 from 8 is 8, and 1 from 1 is 0, okay? So my final answer there is 8,705. Okay, so up next we've got some equivalent fractions. Now remember, the word equivalent just means the same, okay? So I want to know what 3/5 is the same at if there's 50 on the bottom. So the first thing I've got to ask myself is how did I get from 5 to 50? Well, we're going to do it backwards. So what's 50 divided by 5? How many 5s go into 50? Well, 10 5s go into 50. So I know that I divided by 10 this way, so I'm going to times by 10 this way, okay? So I'll put my times 10 there. So now, because I know I times the bottom by 10 to get 50, I have to times the top by 10 as well. So if I do 3 times 10, I get 30. So I know that the equivalent fraction is 30 over 50. Now the next one's a little bit easier, isn't it? I can see that all they've done is double the 7. They've gone 7 times 2 is 14. So if I can do that nice and easily, I can just do that to the bottom as well. So I can do 11 times 2 is 22. So then that's the same fraction there. Okay, up next then. So we want to know which is bigger, -2 or -12. So you might immediately think, oh, well, hold on, 12 is bigger than 2. Positive 12 is bigger than positive 2, but when they're negatives, actually negative 2 is bigger because it's nearer 0, okay? So if we go on our timeline and we go 0, -1, -2, we get to -2 before -12, so we know that it is bigger, okay? Up next, we've got 0 and -3, okay? So we want to know which of those is bigger. Well, if we were on our timeline again, we'd have 0 in the middle, and then we would go down to -1, -2, and then -3. So we know that 0 is the biggest one. Up next then, so we've got 50 times 90. So we're going to do 5 times 9 is 45, and then we're going to add in our 2 missing zeros. That's the easiest way of doing that one. Same for this one then, we're going to do 4 times 3 is 12, and then add in those missing zeros. So 1200 is our answer. Okay, last couple then. So we want to express 13 over 7 as a mixed number. So we ask ourselves, how many times does the bottom number go into the top number? Well, 7 only fits into 13 once, doesn't it? Because it goes 7 and then 14. So if it only fits in once, I write 1 as my whole number. Then I ask myself, if I take away the 7 from the 13, how many do I have left over? Well, 13 take away 7 is 6, so I've got 6/7 left over. So that's my answer there, 1 6/7. Next one then, ask myself, how many of the bottom number fit into the top number? Well, it goes 6, 12, 18. So 2 6s fit into 13 because 2 times 6 is 12. Then I do that 12 and I ask myself, well, hold on, if I've taken away 12, how many do I have left over? Well, I've only got 1. So I write 1/6 there, okay? So that's our answer. So please make sure you have marked your work out of 20 and written your score here. When you've done that, you need to upload your marked sheet to show my homework as evidence that you've done today's work. I hope you have a lovely weekend and your next maths work will be set on Monday.